There were moments of anxiety, but finally, NASA were able to file their case petitioning the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Okay? Now, I was wondering about the anxiety. Why were people anxious? Yeah? Because we know for a fact that when NASA announced that they were going to court after all, there were celebrations in the Jubilee camp. Yep. Jubilee was anxious, as NASA were, to make sure that NASA file a petition. Hey, this is politics, eh? I will explain that mystery much later towards the end of this recording when I analyze what exactly Jubilee are up to here, okay? Or rather what exactly the government are up to, okay? Anyway, so the case was filed, volumes and volumes of documents, yeah? Now one clever Kenyan has done some calculations, and the calculations have proved it's impossible for the judges to read through all those masses and masses of documents within the short time period which they have to listen to this case and determine an outcome. Because we have to have an outcome by the 1st of September, as I had said in an earlier recording. Okay? Now, that one is funny because there's a very simple reason. Actually, there are several reasons. Yeah? Number one, a lot of, some of those documents are copies of the famous Form 34A, Form 34B. Some of them are copies of results, copies of whatever. There's no reading. Those ones you just glance, you verify. You can even have your court staff assist you in verification. Yeah. So that one is neither here nor there. And then secondly, if there's any reading matter to be done, actually it's very simple. If there's any reading matter to be perused or to be looked into, the judges can divide the particular material amongst themselves. So that's not really an issue. Okay? Now in this particular recording, let's not waste any time. What I wanted us to do was to summarize and look at what the evidence NASA have against the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Yes. And then in the next recording, I will give a verdict. I will tell you exactly what the government side is up to, what the government side's defense is, and then I'll also give you a verdict. Yeah? So we will have a ruling. Members of this channel will be lucky because they'll have a ruling before September 1st. Yeah. So all the rest will be details as we listen to the ongoing petition. Yeah. So on to it straight away. Now this first piece of evidence is very interesting because you'll remember in an earlier recording, I had given you my own version of events, and this one was top of my list of the reasons why nobody should have any doubt that this election was fiddled. Okay, it's not surprisingly, it's in the NASA evidence. Okay, now you'll notice the figures here are different. Mine were higher. Okay, there's a very simple explanation for this. IEBC has been playing musical chairs. You know musical chairs? There's a game where you go around chairs. Yeah, you keep on changing your position. The figures have kept on changing. Okay, I believe these NASA figures are the most accurate. Yes, because they were obtained from a final IEBC tally, which I believe the IEBC is going to use in its defense in court. Okay, now the votes cast for president were more by a certain number than those cast for governor. Yes, and they're also more by a larger number than those cast for members of the National Assembly. Okay, now what does this mean? To understand this better, let's get into the mind of somebody who's rigging the election. Now remember, the person who's rigging the election is not me and you. They know a lot more than I or you know. Okay, these are experts. Yeah, they understand the country very well. They understand voting patterns. They understand the law, etc., etc. Yes. So let's start with that. So let's not just rubbish things. Let's understand that we're dealing with a very, very smart people. Okay. Now, it is difficult to imagine that somebody would walk into a polling station and vote for president, and let us assume the other seats, right, and then not vote for governor. Okay, it is also a bit difficult to envisage a situation where somebody does the same. Yeah, walks into the polling station and votes for everybody else plus everybody else votes for president, but fails to vote for a member of the National Assembly. Okay. Now, this is what it means. You know, if we're in the minds of somebody rigging, this is really what it means. You're somewhere in Nyanza, for instance, and you're doing vote stuffing. Of course, you're adding votes, yeah. And you look at the numbers and you realize if you add the numbers for governor, governor is different. It's not an MCA, it's not, a ward representative or anything like that, yeah? Those you can add very comfortably in the polling stations. But now governor is tricky, because if you add too many votes for governor, yeah, it means that you will get, for instance, a Jubilee governor winning in Nyanza. Now that one, people will not accept. Yeah, they'll just say no, it will be too obvious that those vote stuffing. Now the same goes with, say, somewhere in Coast Province. Yeah, the same goes for that particular area. Now let me bring the rest of us up to speed, maybe those who are not. In the old days, the rigging, there were fewer seats, so rigging was very easy. Okay, but still there are problems, because we've had court cases whereby courts have been alarmed and disturbed and shocked when they realize that the people who cast votes for president are many more, yeah, than the people who voted in the rest of the election. Meaning that people just walked in, voted for president only, and walked out. Yeah, definitely a sign of rigging. Yeah, it makes it very obvious. Okay, now with the digital era of rigging, yeah, you do not add the votes for the president only. You need to add the votes for the other people, so that the whole thing makes sense. Okay, as I said earlier, you add for governor, you add for national assembly member, etc., etc., etc. But now you get a problem. Okay, let's say your calculations calls you to add a certain number, and then when you add that number, you realize actually that number takes the tally above the people registered in that polling station. Okay, or let me not confuse you. You realize that when you add that number of votes, it will make an unlikely winner win, like Jubilee winning in Nyanza, yeah, or Jubilee winning in Mombasa, something like that, yeah. So you unafunga breaks, yeah. So the person who's filling is given instructions. Okay, that's a problem. Okay, just fill in all the others, just leave out governor. You understand? Or just fill out all the others, just leave out National Assembly. We'll sort that out later. Now these are the people rigging talking, eh? Now this is where you get something like this. You get something which is not logical, something which cannot be explained, where you have more voters, yeah, voting for president than for governor, who is a local person. It's like saying you're in a local area and you're more interested in voting for a national leader than your local leader. That cannot happen. Hiyo ni kali. Okay? Now we've spent too much time on that particular piece of evidence. Let's try and move faster now. Now NASA agents in Rift Valley and Central Kenya were removed from polling stations and replaced by imposters, yeah, who created fictitious names and signed blank results form. Okay, that's one of the things that happened, and NASA is going to present that as evidence. And then, of course, there were numerous instances where votes were deducted from the NASA ticket, and most notably, I believe, 60,000 votes missing in Nyanza, which were transferred from Raila Odinga to President Uhuru Kenyatta. Okay, yeah, NASA have all that evidence. Now, a total of 14,000 forms had errors. Yeah, no signatures, no rubber stamp, not signed by the returning officer. Of course, this makes them, voting requires legal documents. Yeah, the Form 34As and Form 34Bs are legal documents. Yeah, because those are proof to make an election, transparent and clear. Yeah, so if there's an anomaly with a particular document, it just makes the whole thing null and void. Okay, that cannot be accepted as a vote. Okay, now this is significant because remember, the whole purpose of this petition, what NASA must do, is to be able to prove that the vote difference over 1 million votes, yeah, to be able to prove beyond any reasonable doubt that those million plus votes, yeah, that made Uhuru Kenyatta the winner are not valid. That's all they have to do. Okay, they don't have to look at the whole result and waste a lot of time propaganda. Oh, these guys did this, or these guys killed Msando. No. All they have to do is to prove that the extra the number of votes that gave President Uhuru Kenyatta the win are null and void. They are not there. They were cooked, or they were whatever. Yeah, that's all they have to do. Now, the other thing is that some forms were showing one presiding officer in charge of multiple stations. This is very fishy, don't you think? And then there were 443 instances of un-gazetted polling stations. Now, what does it mean, un-gazetted polling stations? This is a kind word of saying there were 443 cooked votes from nowhere. Yeah, because the only place you expect votes from is from a gazetted polling station. When we started this game, we knew that there are 40,000 whatever number of polling stations. So you expect votes only from those polling stations. Okay, so if there's the extra polling stations, 443 which are bringing in votes, hiyo ni kali. Okay, now at this juncture we do not know exactly how many votes those amount to, but I'm sure it's in the NASA documents filed in the petition. Now some background is interesting for this next one. It is now emerging that one of the key strategies of Jubilee in rigging this vote was to ensure that NASA would not get any evidence. Okay, which is a very clever way. Fine, you already know that some certain polling stations, the results were altered. Yes, you know that. But where's the evidence? Yeah, show us the original one. Where was the original one which was signed by the agents? Yeah, so that we can compare it with what has been altered. If you don't have that, hakuna evidence. Yeah, that is why it was very difficult for the NASA tallying center thing to work. Okay, it was extremely difficult because the tallying center was in place, but now to get the documentation or to get the results in from the 40,000 plus polling station proved to be a challenge. Okay, we're told that the returning officers were very strict, that people are not allowed to take copies of the Form 34As, yeah, strictly, which is odd because really this is a public document in a transparent election. If anybody, even if a voter wants a copy of that, they should be photocopied and dished out to people. It's not a secret, yeah, but the IEBC made it a top secret, yeah, so a lot of these documents were not obtained. Okay, now what NASA have done is that they managed, I believe, to get at least 5,000 polling station results, yeah, verified and everything, and then those they took and compared. In fact, there were over 5,000, yeah, those they took and compared to the IEBC one. Okay, and they found that 5,000 of those they took were different from the IEBC one. Okay, again at this juncture we do not know how many votes are involved, but the whole idea is if you multiply that by the number of polling stations, yeah, you take an average from each of those 5,000 and then you multiply it by over 40,000 polling stations, then you have a very big number and a win that was not there. Okay, that's really what it is. Then of course the law was not followed. As I said in an earlier recording, the IEBC went out of its way to make this as confusing as possible when it would have been very simple. Polling station so and so, these are the results, pure and simple, and you put the scanned copy of the Form 34A from that polling station. End of story. Hakuna complications, Bob. But then because somebody somewhere wanted to do some fishy hanky-panky, yeah, that had to be blocked. Yeah, so the whole election was just a confusing thing where you don't know what's happening, which is the whole idea, yeah, when you're rigging. Now here's another damning one. At the time Uhuru was announced the winner, the IEBC had not yet received results from 11,883 polling stations. Gosh, that's a large number, yeah? And we don't know what would have happened in those 11,883 polling stations. But that's not all. 4 days after the announcement of the winner, the IEBC Chairman responded to NASA's request for Form 34As by saying they had not yet received 5,015 forms. Now these 5,015 forms represent 3.5 million votes. Okay? And the winner won by slightly over 1 million votes. Hey. So you see, how did he win? If the IEBC cannot verify 3.5 million votes. Yeah, let me simplify that. Legally, you cannot announce a winner on hearsay or provisional results, as people like to call them. Okay, you can only announce a winner by showing this is the Form 34B, so many votes, Form 34B, so many votes, the winner is so and so. Okay, and you have the documentary proof with you. But here it seems the IEBC announced the winner without the documentation. What? Returning officers and presiding officers were recalled by the IEBC to sign blank. At what? Officers were recalled to adjust Form 34As and 34Bs? To adjust, to sign, to make adjustments so that the tally, so that the figure tallies with the final results. Wow. I wonder what the Supreme Court will have to say about this. But that's definitely a very strong piece of evidence for NASA. I need to change that. No, I didn't mean for NASA. That's a very strong piece of evidence for the people of Kenya, the long-suffering people of Kenya who line up to vote and their vote does not count. Yeah, that's a very, very, very strong piece of evidence for them. Okay? Now, in every petition, there's something called a prayer. A prayer is what you're asking the court to do. Yeah, you present so much evidence, then at the end, you say, this is what I want the court to do. Now, in legal jargon, it's a prayer. Yeah? Now, the prayer of the petition is that the results are not nullified, yeah, because they are fatally compromised, yeah, so that it can pave way for a fresh election. Okay, that is the request. This is interesting because they would have asked maybe for a recount, yeah, they would have asked for the court to order for, the documents to come in, blah, 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 blah. But what they're asking for is fresh elections. Okay, now, it is very important to note that this does not mean that the Supreme Court has been boxed into a position where it must submit to the wishes of the litigant. Yeah? No. It means what is really going to happen here is that the Supreme Court can decide, for instance, instead of calling for fresh election, they can decide for the votes to be recounted in a certain way. Okay? They can give instructions, let's have a vote recount based on XYZ, okay, or let's have a vote recount based on a certain number of Form 34As, and then we'll make a ruling, etc., etc. Or they could decide to answer the prayer word for word of IEBC, or they could decide that yes, like they did in 2013, yes, there was something fishy going on in these elections, but it is not fishy enough as to have changed the results. Okay, they can decide to do that. So it's an open thing. Now, in the next part of this recording, I will analyze all this evidence, yes, and then more importantly, I will tell you what the government side is going to counter this with, what the IEBC lawyers are going to say against this, etc., etc., and then I will give you a verdict, yes, what most probably the Supreme Court will say about all this, or the ruling of the Supreme Court in advance. Okay, this is just based on analysis, based on my consultations with those who know, based on my consultations with experts, judging by the amount of evidence that's there, and also based on very, very important, which rules everything, the politics. Yeah, because the politics, believe it or not, want to agree or not, is what is the biggest deciding factor, even in our courts of justice. Yeah, I will elaborate on what I mean in the second part of this, so make sure you don't miss it. Yeah, as usual, you know what to do. Look out for the link on your top left-hand corner of the screen and click on it, and you'll be on to part 2 of this recording. If you've come too early, chances are it's not there yet. So just give me a few minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour or so. When you come back, that link to part 2 will be there. Until that time, this is Chris Kumekucha.